Yeah, it was definitely
It was very heavy.
something. Third floor and basement. And
Yeah.
Bill was there. Bill was outside though.
Oh, he was there. He's always there.
He was
Was he?
outside.
Wow. What, on the bench?
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. He was outside on the bench.
Well, I know
I
Teresa
thought,
crossed a couple over on that Saturday.
I swear I thought I heard him say my name.
You might have.
Yeah. And I was
No,
like,
because she asked me, or no, they told me, her friend from her business told me, she goes, Teresa crossed a couple of them over because they wanted to
really?
leave. And I was like, they weren't part of Selma anyway.
Yeah, right.
So I was like, hey, if any of them in there want to leave, they shouldn't be able to leave. They shouldn't feel like they're stuck there. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
exactly.
Because guess what? Something's going to take its place. It always does. And,
Hello,
'cause I hear
everybody.
people,
We're live. We're here at Crossroads, and we have John
Hello.
and Debbie. They joined us again, and Dee's filling in tonight as one of my co-hosts, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. And our special guest tonight is Mr. Andy Andrews.
Hi,
How
guys.
you doing?
Good. Yeah.
Should be fun tonight. He's at the Hoover House.
I will get there one day.
We
There
hear you.
with the
I
berry.
will. No, it's Natalie planned this girls' weekend, but I'm going away on vacation right before that or right after that. So there's no way I could afford to, especially with my job closing down. So I'll get there. I will get there.
Hi, Amanda.
There's always something going on here. That's for sure.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I want to be there. I mean, that'll be like my first place really going besides Selma.
Yeah.
I saw you wanted to go to Trans-Allegheny.
But we've been talking about that, remember?
Yep. That's a great location. I don't
You haven't
know.
heard, I know a few people went, I think, last weekend, but I haven't heard anything how it went.
I've been there 4 times, and the place never lets you down. It's awesome.
Well, remember we saw about you, me, and
I-
Brooke going.
Yes.
Well, so when I first got with, when I first came back into the Virginia area, I got with a friend of mine who was an investigator, and we're talking, this is 96, 97, I guess, maybe a little bit later than that. But we used to go down to Trans-Allegheny. We'd work Monday through Thursday. We had 10-hour shifts, so we was off always Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Wow.
And we would go down on Friday. Well, we'd leave Thursday night. Friday afternoon, we would start doing tours for her. And we got to keep the tips, so we didn't get any pay, but we got free investigating time because at that point they weren't doing anything after the last late tour that they did. So I was in there for a solid summer almost every weekend. And
That's an awesome location, isn't it?
well, I guess that's a good word.
It doesn't
Yeah,
let
after a
you down.
while,
Let's
it's
put it
kind
that
of
way.
like, I definitely saw things that I've never seen anywhere else. I can say that.
It's the first place I caught my first full-bodied apparition
I believe it.
picture.
I
It was
believe
at
it.
Trans-Allegheny down one of the hallways.
Yeah, one of the last nights we were there that really we stopped, we were up on the 3rd floor, and him and I used to race. Like, he'd go up one side of the stairwell on one end of the floor, and I would go up the other end. We'd go up and cut off lights and then kind of meet in the middle. And I saw something come out of one of the rooms, but it was on the ceiling.
Oh,
And it was slithering like, the only thing I could say is it looked like a big huge boa, but it was a shadow figure, but it was the shape of a big boa, and it went right up the ceiling, went right towards the stairwell, and just kind of disappeared. And both of us saw it, and that was about it for us. We didn't want to deal with anything like that again. And but yeah, we would see, after I guess they got used to us a little bit, they would mess with us when we're giving tours, especially after the evening tours. They're not afraid to show themselves there. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it to anybody.
Yeah.
But they do, the only thing is they do ask for insurance if you want to do a private investigation. Or you have to pay an extra, I think $250, something like that, and then you're insured by them. But they do have public ones, and those you don't have to worry about.
Sometimes it's better to do that.
What's that?
Do the public ones because it's cheaper, and it's so huge that they break you up into groups, and you never hear the other groups. Nothing gets contaminated.
Yeah. Last time I went up and we did a public one, we had somebody with us, and then they kind of let us go for a little bit towards the end of the night by ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I was okay with being with a group. A lot of memories come flooding back, and I was like, yeah.
Yep. So what got you into this field, Andy?
Well, I grew up in Virginia, real close to Cedar Creek Battlefield, in between Winchester and Strawsburg, Virginia. And actually on my grandparents' property, they had given my parents for a wedding gift a couple acres to build on. And in the back, I guess we could say the backwoods behind my house was the ammunition dump for the Confederacy. And when I was about 4 years old, 4 years old, I would look, it was about 200-yard walk between my house and my grandparents, field in between us. And I would look out 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I would see what looked like men walking, across the field in between my house and their house. So I'd wake up my parents and tell them that, my first thought was it was somebody trying to break in. Mm-hmm. It was a crook, a robber, And after about 4 or 5 different times doing this, they decided they were going to put me in counseling. So they actually sent me to a counselor. The counselor couldn't figure it out. I literally got a brain scan. They really put me through it. And finally, my grandmother stood up to him, and she said, "Well, I'm gifted. Maybe it's, passed down a little bit." But I didn't really go with the gifted much as I did what was I seeing. And then probably I always had an interest in it. I always had an interest in like Bigfoot and stuff as well. And my dad did a lot of cryptid stuff. And so we ended up, I guess about 14 years old, I met a guy from Fredericksburg, and his family's house was actually used in the Battle of Fredericksburg as an officer's quarters. And he was having, he would tell me about all these like big green blobs of energy in the middle of the night would come into his room. And we got talking, and then we found out that at this camping resort that both of our parents had memberships at, that there was a supposed haunted house about a mile down the railroad tracks. So we decided, that'd be a good, grab a couple of the young ladies and let them hang on us scared and stuff, and this and that, and took off. But we bought one of those old tape recorders that you had to push like play and record at the same time. Mm-hmm. And record. And we stuck one in this house and left. And we came back, I don't know, about an hour later, and we started listening. And you can hear us walking down the steps and getting ready to walk out the door. And you hear a conversation as soon as the door shuts between a man and a woman. And you hear the woman say something to the point about, "Did you just hear the door?" And the guy says, "Yeah, it's probably those ghosts or something, like those spirits." And from that point, I was like, man, I wonder if, we just started thinking about it, man. Wonder if, if they're seeing us as ghosts and we're seeing them as ghosts. And so that really got us into it. And then when we were 16, I had a little Volkswagen Rabbit, and we decided to go up to Staten Island and watch these guys speak at Warner College or Wagner College, I'm sorry, and by the name of the Warrens. And we got there and seen this guy and this woman that had all this neat crap, and these big wires going everywhere and stuff like that. And so we got to sit down with Lorraine and talk to her for a little bit. Wow. And then from the rest is history. I mean, we just decided to go out and buy a couple things and a Polaroid camera, and he's still doing it down in Virginia. And then obviously I live up here in PA. I'm still doing it. And we get together quite often and talk about what we're still doing. But I guess we started out kind of urban exploring is what it was, But then after meeting the Warrens, it was like, yeah, we want to do this paranormal stuff. And that, and then that's, like I said, rest is history. And I traveled all across the United States playing music, but I always made sure at some point in time, any of the known haunted places, I would at least make all the guys stop there. If nothing else, I'd take a picture or try to get in or, see if anybody was around. And so it's always been a love of mine, just trying to figure out what I saw walking in between my grandparents' house and mine. But I decided after that, all the crap that I went through and feeling like nobody believed me, I wanted to make sure that nobody else went through that. And that's the biggest reason why I do it, to validate people's, and sometimes it's not validated, but most of the time to validate that, hey, you got somebody here that doesn't think you're nuts, and give people a voice, I guess, is about the easiest way to put it.
I know the feeling. I went through that when I was growing up.
Me too.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us have, and that's why a lot of people chase what, trying to find out. And obviously I've gotten some answers. I know what it was I was seeing, but, we're still chasing a lot of unknown stuff as well. But
trying to get answers. And
mine was
feeling.
Yeah. Mine was revolutionary that I saw.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, no, it's because it makes all sense now, full circle, because it was on the front lawns of Selma. And this is, but no, this gets better. This is when I was 13.
Oh,
right. And you're still there. Yeah.
I want to be there, but I don't know. I every year I keep saying this is my last year. This is my last year.
She says it all the time. Don't listen to her.
Yeah. We'll see.
She's full of
I don't know. I like being in the background, but then I really don't feel like I have like a say anymore, or you know what I mean? So it's just like,
I can understand.
Yeah, I'll go clean the toilets. Yeah, I'm here. I'll go clean the toilets. I'll do the dishes. Yeah, I got them.
Event, she was running around like a chicken with her head cut off.
Yeah. Until I got attacked.
You seen what?
I was just looking at the people on. I said, I see my friend Laurie and a couple people on there.
Yep. If anybody has any questions for Andy, just put them in the chat room, and we'll make sure Andy gets.
So, Andy, what? I know it's like a cliche question, but what to this day, what is like the one thing that has happened to you that like it makes you wonder, like, am I doing the right thing? Should I stay in it, or like, have you ever had anything like so bad happen to you that?
Yeah, I was in. I used to do Moundsville quite a bit. That's kind of like my home away from home there for a while. And one time I had a situation. I had a group with me. They didn't believe in cleansing. They wanted to, provoke and be nasty and stuff like that. And so we were in the Sugar Shack, and I was getting a little pissed. I mean, that's the easiest way to say it, that they were acting the way they were. And I told them, I said, you know, I was getting ready to go back up front. We were having a public, it was a private, yet we sold tickets to public event. And these guys were just being idiots. And I told him, I said, that, you know, the group that's throwing this, we do not believe in that. You know, I tried talking to them. They, you know, so we were in the Sugar Shack, and I finally had enough. And so I told them, I said, you guys need to go on up to the gift shop. And we had equipment that both the prison had given us a few pieces like REM pods and stuff we could use to hand out. So I had to go back into the Sugar Shack to get these pieces to take up with me. And I never gave it any thought that they may have stirred something up. So I go in, and in the process of collecting these few REM pods and stuff, my battery to my flashlight goes out. And then a couple minutes later, I had to grab my phone and was using that. I just charged the phone to 100%. I looked down, it said 15%. And it was literally dropping like 15, 14, 13. So I'm trying to grab as much stuff as I can. And as I'm leaving, something ran up behind me. And I don't know if you've ever been in the Sugar Shack at Moundsville, but it's the basement. But it has, like, I should say, like this concrete. It's a concrete floor, but yet a lot of people bring like a lot of dirt and rock in there and stuff. So it's kind of gritty on the floor. And something was not running behind me. It was sliding its feet or whatever.
Oh, geez.
And I took off. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I took off because it was pitch black. By then I could see part of the yard light kind of coming into the hallway. And I made it to there, and I ran out and went home, and for about 3 or 4 days, I was pretty much biting the heads off my boys, being nasty to people at work. I mean, you know, and at the time, my dad was married to my stepmother. Her brother was a cardinal in the church, and he had come to visit. And I went over to my dad's, and I'm sitting at the table, and I was so pissed that he was sitting there with us. And so finally I just blurted out and told him, you know, what was going on and stuff. And Catholic Church looks a little different at stuff like that, you know, but he doesn't. And thank God. And he took me back in the other side of the house and, did a cleansing or deliverance is what he called it. And sure enough, it was, you know, I was very drained a day or two after that. So on those days of kind of recouping, I really did think, man, am I doing the right thing here?
Yeah.
And, but I look back at all the things that I didn't do that I normally do to protect myself, stuff like that. I also went in there with a little bit of an attitude because they had upset me, you know, and gave just the perfect storm for this thing to just lash on. And so then a couple weeks later, we decided the team I was on, we decided we was going to do our private and rent the whole place for a night. And I started having dreams. Sorry about that. I started getting dreams about this thing was literally showing up in my dreams and telling me that it was going to kill me if I came back, and I'm waiting on you and stuff like that. And I second guessed whether or not I should be doing what I should be doing at that point in time. So I decided to just go in there protected and face it. And that seemed to do the trick, you know. I mean, that's the only thing I could do. And other than that, I mean, there's been other times I've really questioned what the hell am I doing you know, as in what I was doing at that point in time, like, you know, are you being like being somewhere by myself or, you know, volunteering? Yeah, I'll sit in there while everybody else is, you know, a mile away from me or something.
Yeah.
And those are the times I question, you know, I don't know why people think, you know, they try to be tough and think if they do this or do that, that, you know, that makes them any better or any worse. It actually makes us look really stupid when we don't have others right there in case you need them. And, you know, so there's been a few times. So, yeah, there's actually Bill taught me that. Bill and I were talking about it one day when he was
have a partner, right? Always have a partner.
Yep.
Yeah, him and I were in the basement. We were putting up the last little bit of duct work, and he said, "This is why I have a partner." And he said, "You know, to have a partner with you all the time when you're investigating. Don't ever do it by yourself." You know, and I was like, "Yeah, I learned my lesson with that."
That was like even with Selma. He's the one that told me. He goes, "I know this is home to you. I know this, but always put black salt in your shoes."
Yeah.
And guess what? I didn't have in my shoes that day. Black salt.
Oh. Yeah, and he wouldn't let me, like, if he was running to the store or something, a few times I helped him, he would make me go with him. He wouldn't let me stay there by myself, or he'd say, "Well, go out and sit in the yard." That's what he'd say. Go out and sit in the yard.
Yeah. We never knew how that one thing on the third floor would act.
Yeah.
But the fact that the third floor is now coming down to the first floor.
Right.
Cindy, you're right. Cindy says the number one rule is never, ever provoke spirits.
Yeah, that's something.
That is what was said it came over at Selma, was that like a week or so before that somebody offended them. And I was like,
sure.
So we were asking and they said stupid questions. Yeah. And I was thinking, well, time to bring a new game, people.
Yeah.
I'm sure I don't think you think?
What's that? I'm sorry.
And don't you think they get I mean, I know they're dead, but I feel like they gotta be tired of like putting on parlor tricks.
Yeah.
Give them a new challenge.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, you figure it's probably hundreds and hundreds of times they have, "Anybody here? What's your name?" Like, it's the same question over and over again. They're probably just like standing in the corner going, "Oh my gosh, here we go again."
So they probably push all the newbies up front and go, "And it's your turn." You know?
Yeah, they well, that's why, like, now I've changed my complete way of investigating, and I try to talk to them like I would be holding a conversation with you guys.
Exactly. You know? That's what we do. That's what we do.
Yep.
And I mean, the thing is, when I first started that, actually, it was at Pennhurst last July, and I went there with a coworker. He had never been there, and we're talking on the way, and I'm kind of giving him a little bit of the brief history of it. And then we actually went on the history tour that they offered before we started investigating. But we went into the Quaker, and I set up some things, and I sat down, and everybody else dispersed wherever they went. And it was just him and I. And I went live on Facebook because the people had asked me if I'd do that. And I started just talking to them and thanking them for, you know, I said, "You guys didn't die in vain. You didn't hurt for no reason." I said, "You know, laws have changed." I said, "Because of what you guys went through. So, you know, we remember you by coming here to visit." And I mean, all the equipment was going off.
Like a goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah. And people were like yelling on the feed. They're like, "There's something walking by the window." And I did watch something walk by the window, and I thought, "Oh, that's somebody outside." Didn't realize I was 2 floors up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, so it was a little creepy at that point, but yet it did not feel to me like that I had to worry about anything. It was almost like they kind of just all sat right down in front of me or something. And like I said, the REM pod was going off, cat balls were going off. And then Cedric, the gentleman, was with me. he had motion lights, and every time that he was going to walk outside and call his wife, and every time he'd go to leave, man, the motion lights would go off, like they didn't want him to leave, you know. And he'd say, okay, you know, and he'd come back in and he'd do it again. And I mean, these are ones that you have to cross. They're not ones that pick up movement. You actually literally got to walk between the two of them. And he was way away from them. And here in Gettysburg, I went and did a private place that we're thinking about. You know, I work for Ghost City. I manage Ghost City tours. And we're thinking about renting a house monthly to do investigations in and offer that. And this was a hospital out by the first shot of Gettysburg, the first shot of the battle is what they say. But it's right on the backside of like Seminary Ridge and Her Ridge. And there's still blood on the steps, stuff like that inside. And I went in there and we just started talking. And I had a friend of mine that's from there in Baltimore, on Baltimore Street in Gettysburg. She is a psychic and really good one. And she kept picking up that there was like a young boy or something that had lied about his age, I guess, and had gotten into, you know, he was Confederate and ended up no, I'm sorry, it wasn't her, it was Stacy. It was Stacy Lee was with me. And that's who picked it up and ended up, you know, hearing this kid say, I mean, we heard it all with our ears, Mom. And she had just told us that, you know, she had heard. So that's what I tried to talk to at that point in time. I was like, you know, you're thinking of a 15, 16-year-old kid, you know, that's laying there with a could be deadly, you know, injury and yelling for his mom and stuff like that. And it was actually sad. So we didn't have much time in there, but you know, that's the way I started talking to him. I'm like, you know, are you here? And, you know, your mom, you know, tried to explain that, you know, how do you explain to somebody who's gone, they're gone? You know what I mean? And it's like, so obviously they didn't know. It could have been just residual. You know, like a loop plan, but this was during the day. So it was like really weird to hear that. And, but still, even with that, I tried talking as close as it would be if like I was right there with them when things were going on. It's all about respect.
If somebody's dead and they don't know they're dead, how do you explain to them that they passed?
It really depends on if it's a residual or an intelligent haunting. You know, a lot of times, majority of the time, I would assume that it would be more residual, because if they are not necessarily understanding they're passed on, they're kind of stuck in like this like loop where they're, you know, in their same space. They're, you know, not really at, I don't want to say like the cliche, they're not at peace, but it's kind of what it is. And it's very hard as an intuitive or as an investigator, or, you know, what have you, to kind of break that cycle, to say, hey, like shaking them and saying, hello, wake up, you know, this is actually what's going on. It's a very difficult process. And I truly feel that honestly, if any psychic or medium will tell you there is one only way to do it, they are not correct. It is so situational. It depends on the energy. It depends on the spirit. It depends on the type of haunting. It depends on all sorts of environmental things. It's just, it all comes down to energy. It's all situational. So as much as I would also love to say there's, you know, here's the process on how to do a crossing over. Here's the process of this and the other. Truly, it's one of the most difficult things, because basically you are counseling the spirit as you would a regular live person. And you're we talked about this, I believe, last week or the last time we had our show, where the crossing over, it's counseling through the trauma, counseling through whatever it is that they're going through, in order for them to kind of realize, okay, it's okay to move forward. It's okay to move on. Right. It's It's a long process, but there's no one specific way.
Okay. Well, Susan had something she wanted to talk to Andy about, that she wrestled with the fact that she was raised Catholic and told that they're not supposed to communicate with spirits. Then she wanted to know, why does she have an ability if she can't use it to help others?
Well, that's just like the Catholics talking in tongue. I mean,
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, you know, I work with a priest. You know, we do a lot of things together. He actually is a Vatican taught exorcist, but he got out of the Catholic Church because of some of the ways that they look at things. So, yeah, I know, muscle car. So the way the Catholics look at it, they try to, from my understanding, I'm not completely versed on this, but from my understanding, the way they look at things is that you're the problem if you have some kind of entity that's bothering you or something like that. That's the way they go for a deliverance instead of like maybe an exorcism or something like that. But they do look at talking to spirits as not, like, I guess they look at all of them as evil. They don't, you know, that's what Mike, I think, had told me one time. They don't think we should be, but yet if you look in the King James Version, there's times that they talk about not talking to ghosts or spirits, but they're more like talking like necromancy than they are, you know, just talking to them. You know, I mean, the way I look at it is you have the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. And Jesus, when he came back, if we remember, when he came back after the third day, he was pretty much a spirit. You know, he was walking around with holes in his hands, had Thomas feel his, you know, holes in his hands. You don't believe who I am, you know, blah, blah, blah. And he left, and, you know, he was ascended into heaven. So, and said, I'm leaving you with the Holy Spirit. So that's always been a big debate with people. The thing is, if you're going to believe in an evil side or you're going to believe in a darker side, there's got to be a good side and a light side, you know.
It has to balance. It has to balance.
Yeah, and then you get into the fact, is there like a purgatory? Is that what we're seeing? So my whole theory or thought on this is
troublemaker. There he is.
I gotta go.
I'll see you soon. Give me a shout. That's Mr. Jerry Swope right there, stud of the year. The way I look at it is, I think that heaven surrounds us in another dimension. You know, you hear people talk about, you know, heaven above us or heaven's around us. And I do believe that. We can see into the fifth dimension now, fourth, fifth, somewhere out that 4D, 5D. So I think there's another dimension around us that there's, you know, our energy is in, or the ones that have passed, and we just cannot tap into. I think some people like John can see into that, you know, a lot better than what others can.
I just want to know why some people have a gift and some don't.
I think we all have the opportunity to be gifted.
We're all born with it.
Yeah.
But just some don't unlock it.
Yeah, and it's like you're given that gift, and I believe that any gift is given from God. You know what I'm saying? It's all intent. You know, I believe that if you're trying to do intent, like what's his name that used to be on TV that used to go into a room and say, you know, your dad's talking to me or something like that, and he was doing it for, you know, at first you thought he was doing it to like give people a better, you know, that was dealing with grief or something like that. And then it got to be that it was more like I'm doing this for the spotlight. And then one time he just spoke up and he said, I'm not getting anything today. And then it was like that day turned into a week, and that week turned into a month. And then you didn't hear from him anymore for a while. And it's like, well, maybe your intent and the gift that you were given was taken as quick as it was given to you, because you're not doing this for the right intention. Like I know John.
Or maybe Kenny Biddle called him out.
Well, I mean, like I know John, man. I know John does it with the utmost best intent to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When he's reading and stuff.
Debbie, you do readings, right?
Yeah. And
Debbie does readings. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a little bit more, but yeah.
Same.
When it comes to working with your using intuition, it's a better way of putting it.
Mm-hmm.
These gifts, I'll call them gifts because that's what everybody calls them. Yes. Everybody, and I will say this until the day that I take my last breath, everybody does have a psychic ability. Everybody can pick up on energy. Everybody can read that. That's all that psychic work is reading energy, environmental energy, and how it's affecting with you. People assume that, reading cards or certain things like that, that's just what a psychic does. No, those are divination tools.
Mm-hmm.
Those are avenues on which a psychic can help gather and narrow down that information.
Right.
Now, do I feel everyone is a medium? No. I think that those who focus more on their intuition gain more, I don't want to say experience, but they kind of know how to read the room and read the energy. And so they're aware when different things shift, different beings just suddenly come in. And the more that you work with it, the more it can be adapted and shifted to work through with it. It all comes down to the openness of the individual,
It's kind of like your intuition is a muscle. The more that you work it, the stronger it's going to get. So you can't just say, oh, well, I've got gifts and I can use my intuition to do this, that, and the other.
Yes.
It's like you can't get more detailed information for your client or for somebody else unless you're going to work with it and be able to read the signs and, like John said, the energy, their shifts in energy and how to see things. Mm-hmm. If you don't work it, it's not going to get good.
And one thing I will say here, bouncing off of that, is when it comes to working with intuition, when it comes to reading it, one key thing that I am very fortunate of with taking both Mom and I taking Sarah Lemos' class is that she specifically taught me something, especially that helped me immensely with reading, doing readings for people, and that was building the agreements. That is the biggest thing. And when I talk about the agreements, it's literally breaking down the who, what, when, where, why, based on the signs, symbols, and omens that you are being shown or that you are being given through your clairs, your ways on how you gather information. I'm a seer. And so they're going to show me signs, symbols, and omens where, okay, if I'm reading a grandmother energy, they're going to show me something. And so my agreement, for example, whenever there's a grandmother energy that's present, they will literally show me a tray of chocolate chip cookies. Don't ask me why. I'm not sure why, but that's what they showed me. And I'm like, okay. So anytime that comes across, that's how I know. So that's where the mediumship comes in, but it's also a medium will use their psychic abilities and their agreements and their divination tools and this and that to find whatever message or answer is. And so with what Andy was saying, when you have individuals who claim to be medium, claim to do this and the other, and they kind of inadvertently kind of show themselves out in the open saying, this is what I can do when they're in a public setting, and then it kind of just comes down to, oh, well, they're just kind of bullshitting, You get that a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
And it's
a shame,
unfortunate,
too.
but I think that a lot of us, I think we're at the point now where we can kind of weed out the people and that may seem
I've learned to do that over the years, to weed them out.
and I hate to say it, there are some bigger name people that
Mhm.
are in that category. Some people that I feel like do have some sort of psychic intuition that is stronger than the average person, but I feel like they kind of get lazy with it.
Yeah, and I did. That's what I did. I mean, I knew from a kid growing up, I could go into a room and I knew who I should not. Yeah, I don't want to be around them. They're going to cause problems, before it would happen. Or I knew not to do this, knew not to do that. And, and then there was a few years of, the partying and not paying attention that I kind of let it go. But then, especially lately with, I'm in a psychic circle now with some people online and learning a little bit and stuff like that. I don't think I'm psychic, but I know I see things and I hear things, but it's like in my mind's eye, if that makes sense. But I know exactly what you're talking about, John, when you say the cookies, because whenever I get like that same grandmother energy coming around, I always see, believe it or not, I always see usually my grandmother reaching out with something. And most of the time it's her coconut cake. You know what I'm saying? But I know that is grandmother, but she's still with us at 103. And I've seen my sister said she has gifts. She does. Yes. We talked about that earlier, but it's like.
Well, she says your grandma has special gifts.
She does. Unfortunately, she dreams about people dying before it happens.
Oh.
I did that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I told her, you ever dream of me doing that call? And I was sitting in the closet for about a month.
Call me ahead of time.
I'm not going to do anything. Then my luck, the house would fall on me or something. But no, she does. She does see things, hear things. And that may very well be where I picked it up at as well. But, I don't claim to be a psychic. I have people that'll ask me, like at work, we'll be sitting around and just something will hit me and I'll ask them, did you, get bit by a dog when you were a kid? And that's, and they'll be like, yeah. And then I'll go in with that, you know what I mean? And we'll start talking, and sometimes I'm spot on, sometimes I'm not. And It's just a practice thing, you know what I'm saying, to see. But I would never, ever go out here and try to read somebody right now. And, I don't know if I really want to do that anyway.
Psychics won't tell us the lottery numbers. I've asked.
Every week.
I ask them all
the time. I just played this past Tuesday, and so obviously my abilities or gifts are not there yet because I only hit one number.
$2, you know what I mean? Athena says church does not believe that there are spirits. Spirits are demons. They don't believe in spirits. And she said angels explain another plane of existence. It's another
and that's exactly what I'm saying. Another dimension that's around us, I went to.
I believe her a lot of times.
Yeah, I went to a charismatic, non-denominational church the last few years that I actually went to an organized church, and they very much believed in people being able to see other things. And there's a guy that came in there one time and he'd say stuff like, there's a blue angel standing at the back of the church or something, and blue stands for this and this and this and this, and I'm thinking the whole time this guy's full of crap, you know what I mean? Until he started later on that night, I stayed late. I played in the praise band, so we were packing up, and he's like, man, you got this going on. And he was like, ring the bell for him or hit the cymbal, he said. And next thing I know, I hear ting on the cymbal right beside me. And I'm like, gotcha, man, whether or not that was by just chance or what it was. But but they entertained it. I mean, they said, yeah, they believe it. It's just like I still talk to the pastor from that church when I'm doing things, and he'll call up. Sometimes he'll give me a shout and say, hey, we got, some activity going on at one of our people's places. Would you want to investigate and see if you can figure out what it is? So they're very open to that, which is cool. I mean, he actually went on one with us one time just to see what would happen. We took him to Cedar Creek Battlefield, and he said that he heard horses running past him because we seen him coming. Like he went off by his own, like up over the hill a little bit, and he come pretty much scooting back pretty quick. He said, there's horses up there, somebody, and but it was cool to see that they were open to that. I believe, in my belief, or my belief system, I think that it all is about the intent. If you're communicating to find out who's there and try to, there's difference between ghost hunting and investigating. And like if you go to Pennhurst or you go to Selma, you're ghost hunting because you already know that the ghosts are there. So you're trying to figure out, but if you get a private client and they're just giving you, well, this is happening, then you start investigating the history of the property, the house, the old owners. You go in, you try to pick up whatever you can. You use somebody like John, you come in and then you investigate because you don't know what's in there. And then you come up with a conclusion of what you think it is. That's investigating. And then you have a third type out there now that's entertainers. You know what I'm saying? And that's the three categories, in my opinion, in Pennsylvania now. And they all, a lot of them battle each other, because, we got evidence. Well, that's not what it's about, Yeah, it's cool to show your evidence if you get it, but I don't even do that much anymore because of just I don't want to say egos, but that's kind of what it is, It's like
sometimes it seems like it's a competition, and it's not supposed to be that way.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then it gets bitter.
Yep. And then you see what's happening out here. You see all these shows that are dropping off television. It's not there anymore because people are so sick of it. And that's unfortunate because,
they're making things up for publicity, for ratings.
Exactly.
And
it's all
part.
John and I took Jeremy Leonard's class. You know what I'm saying? And one thing that's always stuck with me with his class was he said, you can get addicted to the paranormal. And he's exactly right. I mean, this is my theory on things, and I always use this. I tell people, think about if you're outside walking in the rain and it's just like that mist. And you're walking and you don't realize until you walk into a dry place and you're almost soaked. You're wet. And so you stand inside a dry place for a couple minutes. It feels a little better, like you dried off, and you go back out into the mist. And you're doing this off and on, and you never really dry up. You never get rid of that water on you. I feel the same way with people who have to be in a paranormal, that have to be somewhere that's supposedly haunted every weekend. How can you not give yourself?
I see that a lot on Facebook. And where do you get the money for all this?
Well, that and pay attention. Pay attention if they're not the ones that are out here being the nasty people. They're never giving themselves a chance to cleanse and get rid of whatever they're in. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and they're addicted to it. They have to do it. And that's a problem. I mean, that is just my opinion. But Jeremy,
it's a good,
that was one thing that stuck with me with them. I mean, there's a difference if you're running a place like Selma and you go in and you're doing something, for the day or something like that. But I'm talking like a lot of these people are going into high energy places every weekend. And it's like, man, you're not giving yourself any chance to just cleanse. I mean, it's like
you can see it. when you
Yeah,
talk to some of
exactly.
these people, you can tell that they're
Well, we were
Yep.
sitting all together that one. I'm not going to say what night it was. We had a night at Selma, and I was listening to the people, and I'm thinking they drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
It was, I didn't like the way they were talking. And then you see when you're talking to them, they can't talk about anything else but. And I was just like, yeah, we gotta they gotta separate. Maybe
Yeah.
a time out.
I think
I like
it's
the name.
like what Andy was saying. What happens a lot of times is think about it like that thrill, like that
It's that adrenaline rush.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank
Well, yeah,
you.
that's part of it.
You get so wrapped into that adrenaline rush that's all you get used to, and then you get so addicted to it. And like what Andy was saying, that addiction eventually, when you don't give yourself a chance to kind of take that step back and realize, oh my gosh, I'm obsessing. This is how a manifested haunting occurs in your life. And it really depletes you as a person. And it's not just specifically for, investigations. Whenever someone is so obsessed with something, it becomes their whole life that they don't realize that obsession, not only is it targeting them as the person obsessing over it, but it's targeting their whole exterior life. And it's also affecting your relationships with your friends, your family, your spouses. It affects.
It's just a different type of addiction.
Right.
It is.
And it's really hard, but people need to kind of take that step back to realize, what the hell am I doing? I'm jeopardizing, potentially putting myself even more at risk, putting other people that I care about or I'm supposed to care about, also in the mix with this manifested sort of it's a shitstorm. You're putting yourself into this. And so for anybody who is watching this or will watch this later on, if you're finding yourself involved so much, it's okay to have interest. It's okay to always want to go and do this and the other. Who wouldn't, in this field? All 5 of us here, we sure would be happy to go, just kind of have like a little fun, investigate, go and doing this and the other. But when it becomes your life, you're letting the paranormal, you're letting that addiction run your life. You're not running your life. And that's one lesson that I teach in my class, especially. Number 1 is to honor yourself and to realize that you need to take that step back and realize this is your life. You are in control of your life. Outside things, outside people, whatever, you allow them to have control in your life, then that's you have to take a step back and realize that. If you don't,
I see it all over Facebook all the time. The same groups, the same people. Like every other day, they're going out on an investigation. It's like, seriously, do you have a life?
No.
So where are you going this weekend? Where are you going this weekend?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Exactly.
Now, I will say this. I'm going to be devil's advocate right here. Follow me here. So everybody is also different, right? We all have our own practice. We all have our own way in how we work with energy, whether we're a psychic, medium, regular investigator, researcher, scientist, thrill junkie, whatever. Everybody has their own process on how they work through energy and kind of recoup. We all talk about like the paranormal hangover. We've all experienced it. We're all exhausted. We're all trying to get through it. So it's like everybody has also their own process on how they work through that, and then it's on to the next. So, everybody is different, but I think the moral of this and this whole little brief, kind of spiel that we're doing here is make sure, out of anything, anybody who's watching, any lesson you kind of get out of tonight, I guess, is make sure you're taking time for you, that way you're not obsessing over this. Because when you obsess,
take time to cleanse yourself too.
Yes.
I don't know if they're doing that.
Well, it's just like recharging. Yeah, it's just like recharging crystals. You know what I'm saying? You got to recharge. I mean, I see people do it. I actually heard a person one time that was one of these you know, whatever you want to call them, each weekend and stuff. I actually heard that person tell another person, I've been here so many times, these spirits know not to screw with me, because we were all doing like our beginning ritual. Some people were spraying themselves, some were praying, some were, you know, and everybody kind of leaped off. And this person, literally, somebody asked them, do you not do a ritual, or do you do it before you even get? No, I don't have to here, because they know who I am and they know not to mess with me. And I was like, oh, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know, I was like, oh, here, you know. I mean, I don't know if anything happened. I wasn't around him that night, but I was like, that's when you know that you've took a step too far, you know?
Yep.
I mean, to this day, I mean, working with Mike, especially Mike Ross, if we're going to somewhere that it's possibility a darker case, excuse me, we literally pray over top of the car, the equipment. I mean, we pray over each other. We pray over every single thing that we can, because, and then we try to cleanse that as well when we're leaving, you know, as in praying. But, you know, Mike, we went to a case one time outside of Baltimore. He had bought a brand new car. This thing had like 300 miles on it when we left to go. And literally the motor locked up on the way. And dealerships like, we cannot tell you. We don't know what happened. You know, they're like, it's almost paranormal. And that's exactly what but they had no idea that either one of us, you know, and they said that. But it was like, ever since then, we're like, man, we need to pray or do whatever ritual it is that people do over top of everything. And I don't think people think about their equipment either, man. I thought about that a few years back. We use that equipment in there. They're almost more in contact with the other side than we are. True. And we just slap that stuff back up in our case and don't say nothing and roll on, you know. And it's like, what is that stuff collecting, you know?
I never thought of that. No.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't either until somebody brought it up one time. Do y'all cleanse your equipment? And I was like, you know what?
That's a good,
good idea. You know what I'm saying? And
because I teach the teen kids how to cleanse themselves before they go in and when they come out, because I don't want them.
Oh yeah, that's got to be the first thing, man. It's all about protecting yourself, and like John was saying, you know, you're in charge. You got to keep it about you. And
right,
if you ever feel, that's another thing with some of these thrill seekers, man, that if you're in a situation and you are losing somewhat control of the situation, and we've all been there, you know, it's time to back out, because sometimes they won't let you back out if it goes too long, you know. And, you know, too many people out here are trying to get, like I said, that big YouTube hit or whatever, you know, or Facebook hit.
Yep, you're right, D.
And man, you're putting, and you take that stuff with you after that. It's not like you're just affected. You know, there's a certain person that's been on TV for quite some time that we won't bring up his name, but that likes to do the demonic stuff all the time. But I know a guy that, you know, was working on the film crew with them one time, and he told me, he was like, I don't think that man realizes when he's provoking and stuff like that, that he's not just jeopardizing himself, he's jeopardizing every camera operator there, every person, you know, you're jeopardizing. That's what happened to me at Moundsville. You know, 2 guys were provoking out of like a team of 10, and you're putting every single person in there in danger, and even the people once you leave there that you're coming in contact with afterwards, if you're bringing something out of there, you know.
You're right.
Oh, good haunted hammy, Chris. Him and I were at Pennhurst one time, and his ass got a brick. Asked Big Jim if he could take a brick home when they had, you know, the bricks piled up around there. And he threw it in my trunk because he was riding with me, and never got it out. I never thought about it.
Oh.
On the way home, I get a flat tire. So I had 2 spare, believe it or not, I did. So I grabbed the one that was laying right on top, in the back of the trunk, grabbed it, slapped it on, got moving down the road. And like 2 days later, my AC went out in my car. Just got it serviced. I'm like, they must have did something wrong. Took it back, and the guy's like, this makes no sense. He reserviced it. Everything was fine. About 2 days after that, I'm going to pull it in the sheets to get gas, and my other tire goes flat. So that's when I opened up the trunk to get the second, and there's that brick. And I'm like, well, I said a few choice words for Chris, not taking it. And I was like, that's got to be what it is, And so I called him up, and I'm like, we got to take this brick back, because we were going back like a week. It's like a 3-week in between, and we were going back to help another group do an investigation. And so I took that sucker, man, put it in a box, stuck it on my front porch, put a rosary on it. I did all kinds of stuff, and we took it back. And I mean, I never had problems after that. Now, was it that? I don't know. But
I always tell people, do not take anything
my belief
from a
was
location.
because
Not even
I
a
don't
stone
either.
from outside.
That's like
Don't
here in
take
Gettysburg.
anything. You don't take things from locations.
That's like here in Gettysburg. You would not believe out at the Adams Historical Society. We went out there. We're doing a little bit more studying on Sox Bridge just to get, well, we know what a lot of the truth is out there, but we also are looking more into, a lot of people don't know that Gettysburg was there was a huge Native American battle there way before the Civil War that thousands of Native Americans were killed.
Oh.
And more like out, if we are correct, it's more out towards like Triangular Field and Devil's Den where that happened at.
Okay.
So we were in there talking to one of the historical guys, and he says, you won't believe how many people send items back, such as stones and stuff that they pick up off of the battlefield.
That's
and
one
just
thing
want
I
that
always say, do
new
not
look.
take anything.
And
Not
then
even
all
a
they're
piece of
doing is
grass.
having issues and issues and issues after that, And he was like, there's some of them that'll send it. Please put this back in Triangular Field. And, they don't. And he'll have to record it. He'll go out and record himself throwing it back into the field, And truth, I mean, yeah, it's like people just don't understand.
Says it leads to the question, why are you in the field? All the stuff that we're talking about. And Susan says, I leave places and wipe my shoes. No hitchhiking.
That's right. That's right. That's another thing I do
Spirit.
too. I'll wipe off my feet. But I mean, I'm in the field, I'm in the field to answer, I guess, to outside, if I'm doing a place like Pennhurst or somewhere that we know it's haunted, I'm doing that to research and hopefully gain a skill or gain a little bit more knowledge that I can use in private cases, and yes, some of it's to be with friends and because it's fun and stuff like that. But, I'm willing to, I feel like it's a calling for me to go into places and help people. But also, I think when we go into places like Pennhurst or we go into places like St. Albans, I mean, all the ones I've been in, a lot of times we can learn something possibly from those spirits that'll help somebody else that's in a grieving process. I just shot in September. I got to go to Kentucky and film with Mustafa and Brandon Alvis. For there. And the show is called Family Spirit. Well, it's Haunted Discoveries, but it's Family Spirits. And the whole premise behind that is to talk about people who have passed and how they've reached out, loved ones, family. And some of the stories that I heard while they're filming, they're doing that. Brandon, man, he is just one of a kind when it comes to the work that he does, because he's so sincere. Yeah, he's so sincere about finding things out. Nothing that he does is ever for his own ego or nothing. It's always to help somebody else. You know, Brandon and I both lost very close people to us in the same way. And, you know, we have had questions and have got some of them answered over time by listening to other people that had others that died that way. And, you know, that was the number one seller to me to go down there and film, was because this is all about trying to give people a little bit of help if they're grieving about a lost loved one, if they are okay on the other side. And, you know, and some of the stories is just phenomenal. To me, that is one big reason why I do it. You know, it's like, if I can help somebody, you know, I've done cases, private cases, where I just did one a couple years ago that meant a lot to me, because the woman lost her son to suicide, and she was grieving, obviously. I mean, you know, but the biggest thing was he was still there. I guess he felt like he had to protect or something. And talking about crossing over, I was actually working with somebody that did, I don't know if you know, I've heard this, John, but like a crystal grid is what this person did to help cross them over. And literally, I felt this kid hug me, like, and I knew him. I knew the family, but it was like, you know, time to go. It wasn't that we were crossing them over. We were just kind of give them, you know, direction. Go tight. You know, we cannot physically cross them over. You know what I'm saying? All we can do is give them the direction, and hopefully, you know. And I definitely think that, you know, she ended up like, she was in a bad depression. I mean, obviously from what happened, but after it was all over and said, you know, that's a big reason. That right there is one of my number one cases that I could pull out and say, this is why I do it. Because this woman, after, you know, afterwards, she ended up.
It's the best feeling
ever. Yep. And I actually did a case not long ago where the guy died that morning. We were supposed to go out there. Well, we were supposed to go out to this person's house because they were seeing light anomalies around him, because he was there with hospice and stuff. And the night before, that morning, I get a call that he had passed, and I'm like, well, you know, we're not going to go out there now, you know. Oh no, we want you out here. And I was like, now this is the first thing. Yeah, this was a first for me. I've never walked into where somebody had passed, you know, hours before we went in. And man, the incredible answers we were getting on the Ovilus. And, you know, we did the girl that we used as a medium then, she couldn't come that day. So we tried like Phasm Box and a couple other things, and we were getting the same answers, you know. But what was so crazy was this guy that passed had dementia, but it was like he was literally, there was things being said that his daughters were there, and he was almost like talking to each of them. Do you remember this? Do you remember that? Do you remember, you know? And it was almost like he was telling them, hey, I'm better where I'm at now. I remember the time, like he was talking about an old Studebaker or something that he must have had. And he said, you know, he just come across, said, remember the back seat? And she starts crying, and she's like, I do, because supposedly they were driving down the road and he had been working on, you know, the car in the back seat, and must not have, he had put the back seat in and didn't tighten it down, and he hit a bump, and she almost flew like out the back of the car, you know. And just, I mean, spot on stuff like that. And it's like,
that's awesome.
You know, but the thing was, you know, they were laughing and they were celebrating his passing instead of grieving over it. They were actually celebrating his life. And I was like, man, this is where it's all at, you know.
Think about it as like a and I like the way how you're explaining this, because normally when you have someone that comes through after they pass, on the other side, there is no essence of time. However,
Right.
I feel that they're usually starting to come back around. And when somebody asks about, like, oh my gosh, my so-and-so just passed away 3 days ago, like there are things I wanted to say and blah, blah, blah. I tell them, wait about 3 months.
Yeah.
Wait
Give 'em
about 3
time.
months, because that's usually around the time when they start to come through. However, when you have, and this is something that I've kind of experienced doing, obviously the mediumship that I do, when it comes to someone who suffers from Alzheimer's or dementia, their spirit, the makeup of who you are, is on the internal. Your personality, who you are as a person, your thoughts, your beliefs, it's all spirit, it's all energy, it's all internal.
Right.
You just inhabit this physical shell. That's something that's taught, in The Secret. If you've never read The Secret or watched The Secret, go and, check out. You'll understand.
Good stuff.
When you have someone who has Alzheimer's or dementia, and it's so bad enough to where it's really affecting not only their mental state, but it's now at the point where it's so beyond physical that it's getting towards their, ending days. It's almost like that's their spirit, if you will, their makeup, their mentality of who they were is already crossed over. And so it's already kind of on that process where it's not necessarily 3 months, but your spirit of who you are is still attached to your physical body until that, obviously that physical departure does happen.
Right.
That healing moment is what those girls needed. And think about it like this. Yeah. You guys, through the equipment, were the medium. And
right,
that's
exactly.
something that for me personally, I have always tried to take and I'll take this quote away from a couple people in the Pathways class. I try to bring the mysticism, taking the woo-woo out of everything, and realizing that as investigators, if you're working on a case and there is actually a loved one there, or any of that nature, you are the medium. You are the physical, scientific medium that is there. So for me, going on a case is great. That's doing what I do is absolutely, I'm here to do that for anyone who needs that work. But it's always really kind of gratifying when you have that scientific and that physical, evidence, if you will, to kind of back up what I'm getting or what another medium is getting or what another psychic is intuitively getting. It's always gratifying, and it's not for the ego essence of it. I mean, everybody loves that kind of gratification of like, see, I'm not a full of crock of crap. But, at the end of the day, you are able to provide a validation for your client, for those who you are, there with you, those who are living and going through it. So, Andy, I'm very happy that you guys were able to do that, because
that's a blessing.
It takes the mysticism out of needing to have a medium there all the time.
Right.
Yeah. And like I said, I knew the families somewhat. So it was kind of special to me to be able, I didn't know him, the one that passed, but to know the couple of the daughters and stuff, it was like, just to be able to leave and they're all sitting around the kitchen table laughing and, stuff like that. I was like, you know what, this is exactly why we do what we do. And I actually had a guy that had just started in the field maybe a month before that. And I was so happy that he chose to go with me, because I said, this is exactly what I do it for. And the team that I have, I hope does it for the same reasons, which most of them that are on there do. And I mean, you're exactly right. That equipment we use, I don't think people really realize that either, that that equipment that we use out here that does communicate, some of it's a bunch of crap, but some of it can very well be used. And I really think the intent, I always go back to that. You know, our intention that night was to see if he would validate that he was okay, you know, some way, somehow. And sure enough, man, that's what happened. And it's like, you know, that's what this stuff is supposed to be used for. Well, sure, we like going into, you know, St. Albans and having somebody come across and say hello. And just like Debbie was saying, you know, the same questions are asked. Can you make a noise for me? Can you do this? Can you do that? But, you know, if we go in there and we actually literally just have a conversation, just like a medium would, you know, you go in and you're having a conversation. That's the same way I think we should with equipment. Sure, I ask them, you know, can you touch that and let it go off and just validate you're here? And, you know, but I'm usually talking a lot more before that, you know, and talk about people, you know, talk about people addicted to it and stuff. Some of those people, man, they get like right down nasty with the energy. See what I'm saying? Because they're looking for that, you know, good filming, you know, I got that one piece of evidence that pushes their ego up a little bit further. And man, that just, but yeah, we're using that equipment to, if we don't have a medium, I mean, if I have somebody with me that is gifted or a medium, whatever you want to call it, most of the time I don't even cut on a piece of equipment. Like if I'm working with Kelly Miller, a lot of times I just let her go. And then I kind of back her up with an EVP session or something like that. I might lay out the REM pod, you know, over in the corner or something. But other than that, I don't empty out the whole toolbox, you know what I'm saying? Because to me, she's more legit because I trust what she gets, you know. And it's been validated many times over. And exactly what John's saying, man, validation of people gifted, you know, that equipment should be used more for that than anything sometimes, you know, to kind of validate them, but also validate that, you know, something is happening, you know, because there's too many of them out here that can lead you in directions and they're full of shit. I mean, that's all there is to it, you know. They're talking this and this and this, but, or they've heard you talking about the case before you get there. And then all of a sudden, everything you were talking about is exactly what they're seeing. And it's like, come on, you know, I'm looking for somebody that's going to walk in here and say, you know, this is what I'm picking up. And that's why you shouldn't ever share anything with a psychic or anything with a case, you know.
Right.
Let them do it. I mean, if they're the real deal, like I know John is, you know, let them go in and feel what's going on, because things can change quickly. I mean, here I work in Gettysburg. I'm in ghost tours all day long. And man, it's like when I get home, I don't even want to watch a paranormal show. I'm like, I got to have a break, you know. Yeah. But there's constant people coming in there and like, you know, we got this picture and we got that picture, and you know, and every other person's a psychic or they know that they're gifted, and you know, and I'm just like, you know.
So I heard when I just did a car show in Conchi, and I was selling my crystals, right? And every person, every woman coming up, well, I'm an empath. Yeah. I'm psychic. My family's psychic. I'm like, really? Oh, that's good.
So you knew what I was going to say next, huh? No, John.
Yeah, thank Hollywood for that stuff. You know.
So Andy, if somebody wants to reach you, how do they do that? Can you have John type it into the chat room?
Sure. You can find me. My email is myrealparanormal@gmail.com, or they can look up Andy Andrews on Facebook.
What about the place that you work?
Or ghostcitytours.com, and they'd have to pull up to Gettysburg. The Gettysburg, we have 26 other branches across the state, so they want to do Gettysburg, And don't let the I try to tell people, don't let the name fool you. Ghost City Tours was named after New Orleans, where our corporate is, but we are about 70% history, and then the other 30% is paranormal, which makes it really a cool mix, because obviously you don't have paranormal usually if there wasn't some kind of history. You know what I'm saying? So, but Gettysburg is a different beast. I mean, I have to kind of cut myself off from, I have, being the general manager, I have a lot of paperwork and different things I got to do, which to me is my break from standing out there talking to every single person about paranormal. Right. It's not that I don't want to, but I need that break sometimes. And, and then you can look up Vapor. If it's all capital letters, VAPOR, we have our own Facebook page, but you can reach out to us anywhere like that. Yeah, with Ghost City Tours, if you find the Gettysburg branch on there, usually if you send an email, they'll send me something saying somebody's trying to get with us. But
you're right.
Yeah, if you come to Gettysburg, don't miss out. And we sell some really cool dowsing rods there.
Ah.
Yes.
I kind of know the person that you can get them
from. It's the chick that makes them is pretty awesome. So come buy some of
my products in there.
Yeah,
you need to.
John sells.
Come down and see me, man. We'll do it. That's not a problem.
He wanted me to come down to the store and bring my dowsing rods and stuff. So you ought to come with me that day.
There you go.
We could have a Crossroads meet and greet.
Oh my God, that's awesome. He did this on the one show. He said, we're going to be at Penhurst, so if anybody's there and you see us, stop and we'll get a picture taken and we'll post it. And some people did, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yep.
That's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I saw the pics. Yeah, when are you guys coming in for the bash? What day?
Thursday.
I'll be there that Friday.
And you know what?
Yeah,
Sarah, did you read that? Sarah Lemos is coming to the bash. I can't wait. I can't wait to meet her in person because she was great.
Yeah, me too.
Sarah will be there. I saw that Daryl will be there too. Daryl Marston.
Yes,
I'm not going this year.
Dee, I'm picking you up, and
I can't go in that hotel.
The Eisenhower. Yeah, I will say the Eisenhower Hotel.
Do you remember last time?
It has a very black energy inside. I don't know how to describe it.
I was crawling on the floor. I was so sick.
Yeah. For the physicality, like the venue for a promoter's aspect, great venue.
Oh yeah. I want to go, but I'm not jeopardizing my health for. Especially this year, I'm not in the best.
We'll figure something out, Dee. You need to be there.
Yeah, you stay in that. You stay in the Aspire side.
That's where I'm staying.
Is that where I was? Is not in. We were in where the pool is.
That's the.
We had the bathroom facing the pool.
Yeah, that's the Aspire. I mean, that's the Eisenhower.
Yeah. Oh, it was freaking horrible.
I'm on the other
it's
side.
the Eisenhower, and it's connected to the Aspire only by like an outside ramp. I guess you could call it tunnel. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not staying.
But all the big stuff, I think, is going to happen.
Yeah, well, there already. I want to do it, but
you don't have to have a table. Just come and stay with us.
Yeah,
we'll talk.
It's a bitch night,
We'll talk.
This year is going to be pretty fun. I mean, it's
going to be a great time.
All kinds of stuff. Yeah, you got to come ride the mechanical bull, D.
I can do that. No. I've done that.
But they're doing superhero night. You got to come. You're superhero.
I don't know. We'll talk. Maybe I'll try. I can't promise.
That's our superheroes. We're the super Selma bitches.
That's right. That's what we need to do. Super Selma bitches is a superhero.
So we're the superheroes, the super Selma bitches, right?
Super bitches.
Da-da-da. And
Jody, are you setting up? Jody,
what's that?
Yeah, I'm going to have a table.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have one this year myself. I'm going to have a Ghost City tour table. And
Yeah, you can put your
also
stuff
going to
on my
have,
table, D. It doesn't matter. Just put some of your things out. Just
that's
come
it.
and
Come
meet me.
put some of the stuff on mine. I don't care.
I gotta work things out.
You got bitches sleeping in the room, you know? You're a bitch. You got to stay with us.
I snore.
So do I.
Hey, I'm a bitch.
Oh,
I
my
get to
sister
jump in on
snored.
this phone.
My sister shook the
John,
whole
are
room.
you a bitch yet?
Hey, we all snore. Who cares?
No.
All right, I'll see what I can
Hey.
do.
All right, June 20th,
Mhm.
we're going to be back. We don't have a guest yet, but we're working on it.
If
And-
you or anyone you know would be interested in wanting to come on the show to showcase anything that you do or
Yes.
your small business, reach out to Jody, myself, Mom, Debbie,
Yep.
or Anthony or Sabrina, and we can
Yep.
schedule you in for, of course, the rest of the month and July and the rest of the year.
What about have you guys scheduled anything for Sabrina for the psychic fair to come on and talk?
No, but we were talking about it, so we don't have a date yet. Yes.
Yeah, and I'd also like to put in there that anybody that wants to come to Ghost City and set up and talk about what you do or meet and greet if you have teams. We can't pay anybody to come in, but I do national advertising. I do local advertising. I can tell you that we probably have 300 to 400 people come in and out on a weekend easily. It's a good way to just get your name out there. I don't care. I'd rather network with the smaller groups anyway than the ones that are not known as much, you know. But yeah, if you can make it to Gettysburg for just an evening or something, or if you're an author, just like you, John, any stuff I do, ooh, yes, God.
I know, I saw that.
Wait, Andy got an idea.
Yeah, it just went off. Yeah.
That really
I like what
happens.
Stephanie says, the bitch brigade.
Yeah,
That
the
would be
bitch
a great
brigade.
name for the bitch brigade. That's it.
But no, I'm looking for people to come in. I mean, do readings. Make you're
There you
talking
go,
about
Debbie.
coming
You
down.
can go and practice your readings.
But anything. I mean, if you ever
Good place to do it.
you ever want to send me advertisements of anything at Selma D, send it to me in an email and I'll throw it up on our front window. I mean, we
appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm going to be
we're right
sending more dowsing rods down to him because he's
Selma's having a paranormal weekend in October. I believe it's the first weekend.
Cool.
So I don't know if you'd be interested in coming, Andy.
Maybe, yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Yep.
Again, I think we were promoting the wrong weekend for the longest time. But Michael Lean's handling and all that, so I'll have to have her get in touch with you.
And what month is that?
Okay, cool.
October.
October, okay.
And I know that you're busy month. That's why.
I believe I'm investigating there in
John and Debbie, you
September.
got to go to the Selma.
Are you? We're at Selma?
Yeah, I'm with Jim Houston.
Oh, that's Psychic Fair.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Jim got it out. We were like, all right, who'd they run it out to? They knew we're gonna be here. Then we were like, oh, it's Jim. Oh, that's okay, that's fine. Because every time that Russell would rent that place out, rent Selma out, like forgetting that we had an event. These people are rushing us out, and it's horrible.
Hi, Chad. Our show's over tonight, but you can always watch it again. Anybody that wants to watch it, pop on my Facebook and you can see it again. Watch the replay.
Yeah, and also, if anybody's got product, I do consignment at the store. We don't charge for shelf space.
There you go, John.
Yeah, we don't charge for shelf
Debbie,
space. We just
stuff there.
we throw your stuff up there. We've come out with a good price that everybody's happy with, and I can tell you that most of the time the vendor is making way better than my store. But we like to, we just like to showcase local stuff. You know what I'm saying? We don't like buying off of. We hate buying off of
Thank you,
Amazon or Fair or anything like that. You know, now we do buy off of the local, you know, Americana there in Gettysburg because they're Gettysburg branded. But other than that, everything else I have is either Ghost City T-shirts, which we have our own guys that make those down in New Orleans. But everything else I have in the store is local artists, most of it.
Cool.
You know, and that's
well,
what
people get your butts to Gettysburg.
So come see me, and you know, we pay out about once. You know, well, it all depends on how we contract it up. Some people like monthly payments, some like weekly. You know, and we get it figured out and send it out. But it's definitely a way to showcase your stuff, and you know, that's what it's all about. And like I said, anybody wants to come in, I have a couple rooms. One of them's a big event room. James and Nito and them were just in there a couple weeks ago. They used the projector that I have and told their stuff. About 40 people probably showed up, something like that.
That's
James
awesome.
will be at the psychic fair.
Cool.
Oh, is he going to be there?
Good guy. Yeah. But yeah, we're right on the square, right by the Lincoln statue.
Cool.
Are you really? I love that freaking statue.
You know what the thrift store used to be at right there?
No.
Well, we're in the Masonic building. It used to be a thrift store, but we're literally in between the inn on Lincoln Square and the David Will's house.
Okay.
We're in between them. And yeah, and if people are really into staying somewhere historic, Gus and Hillary that own the inn on Lincoln Square, I would recommend that. Beautiful inside, you know.
Okay.
I know the diner.
What's that?
I know the diner, and John turned me on to that place years ago. And
Lincoln Diner. Yes.
I'm freaking hooked on that place.
That's right down the street. But no, Gus and Hillary that own the Lincoln Inn. Jason Halls was just there a couple weeks ago and investigated it for a night. He come over and sat at the store with me for a while and stuff and talked, and actually Ghost City, we're working on a TV show, more like haunted history with a little bit of investigating, I guess. So we filmed there about 2 weeks before Jason was there. So we'll see how that goes. I think they're throwing out the sizzle reel to some networks now, but you know, we get people like that just pop in, you know, every now and then. And I seen Jason's bald head walk by the front door, and I was like, "Is that Jason Halls?" And he come up and he said, "It's Andy," and I was like, "You're walking right by my store and didn't come in," but he actually come in and like filmed our store to put on his YouTube channel. I was like, that's cool. Kind of cool, yeah. But yeah, I carry like Ernie Atwell's book. You know, he does
Ernie.
real well.
Yeah, Ernie was in the show. He was in the chat room earlier. So hi, Ernie, if you're still there.
Yeah, both of his books we have now. He'll come in and do signings a lot of times. You know, I've got pretty much all the books I have in there are all local authors. And oh man, I'm in a position that I can actually. I knew there was somebody else on here that I have their book, and I can't remember her name. I feel bad about that. But yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, Laurie Hillman that was on here. She makes battlefield candles, man. These are some of the best smelling candles I've ever smelled, and she literally each one of them are themed after something Gettysburg. And like she took chemistry in college, and she got Abraham Lincoln's favorite lemon cake, I think it was, and or his apple pie, I'm sorry. And maybe I'm wrong, but it was one of his favorite baked stuff. And she literally found the recipe online that he liked it that way, and she mixed these things together, and that's what it smells like. And it is, man. I got a couple candles she gave me that I burn at home, and I mean, it's like the whole house smells like it. And she's got everything from, like leather and, like a Grant's candle. She's got a Jenny Wade candle, stuff that smells like bread. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, it's pretty cool. So we got them there too. But like I said, I'm in a position now to network people that deserve it. You know what I'm saying? That work hard, doing the little things and stuff like that. And that's what it should be, Yeah.
We appreciate that, Andy. And I appreciate that you came on the show tonight. It was really a great show.
Thank you for having me.
Dee, thank you so much for filling in tonight.
I stayed awake.
I know you did. I'm proud of you.
I work my 15 hours tomorrow.
Oh, Debbie and John, as always, I love you guys. Nice to go to bed, John.
I've been awake since 4 a.m. I'm ready.
I'm always awake since then. My husband wakes me up every morning.
Well, I ended up in the vets yesterday, and this morning I had to take the dog for emergency surgery.
Oh no!
Yeah, he decided to eat a toy at some point in time, and
they got lodged.
Oh yeah, it sure did. But poor little guy got cut open, got that pulled out, and his nuts clipped at the same time. So he woke up in a bad. He just woke up completely different, John.
He's like, Daddy, I'll never play with a toy again.
You know what I'm saying? He's like, yeah, that'll teach you to swallow that toy. You know what I'm saying? But nah, he's an overcomer. But yes,
we're going to say goodnight. And like John said earlier, if anybody would like to join us on the show, like we're going to go 2-week ventures now. Maybe just for the summer, maybe forever. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But June 20th, we'll be back. And I appreciate everybody watching and all those that are going to watch.
Yeah, they're coming for Steve.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Tell Steve and Pam we said hi.
That's what happens. Yeah, they're still at the historical.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah. But we're going to go night-night.
All right. Night, everybody.
Love you all.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
No problem. Anytime.